Alright, so we're going to talk about setting up your Crenova projector. And to start off with, you need to obviously connect a video source. In this case, we've got HDMI set up on the back. And you can see that we're plugged in. We've got the red light on. So either to get the power on, we would hit that button, or on the remote. I'm going to use the remote. And you see it turn green now. So then it's going to basically, you're going to see it up on the screen or the wall. And we're going to go ahead and get this thing set up to be watched. So one thing I need to do is get my source turned on. So we'll do that, and then I'll come back. Alright, so we've got our source plugged in. This happens to be a Roku 4K Ultimate, which this will allow you to use that as a source, but obviously the output of the projector is about 720p native resolution, maybe 800p, somewhere in that vicinity. So it's high def. Alright, so right now we're actually a little wider than we need. And instead of moving my projector, which I could do, I could obviously, the thing it's sitting on, move it around. I could move it forward, I could move it backwards. Instead of that though, we're going to use the menus. So clicking M on the menu, there's a thing called X zoom. So I'm going to click that. And if you notice, as you go to the left and make X zoom the value up top there smaller, the screen is actually getting wider. So I need to go the opposite direction and make the value greater. So my goal is where that dartboard is there, to line this up with that. Okay, so it appears I've done that, and we're setting a 53. Now we want to check the Y zoom, and it actually is pretty close to where I want it to be. I'm just hitting the air conditioning duct up top there. So if I go, once again, making the number smaller, I'm making the picture's actually getting bigger. In this case, I want to make the numbers greater so that it is just under the duct, and it appears to be under the duct. Now, one thing you'll notice by changing that your picture, you could make your picture more wider in relationship to height, which something you might not want to do. So moving projector back and forth may provide you with a better picture. Now you'll see we're slightly, I guess you could say, lopsided, and that's one thing that putting this on a very flat surface, you should not have that issue. However, in my case, I've got it on something that's looks to have a slight lean to it. So the projector itself has a single leg that you can adjust up and down, but it doesn't allow you to change the left and right. So that's something you're going to have to, move around the projector, maybe prop up one end of it with some thin material or thicker material to get it level. So we're going to adjust that real quick and then get back, then we'll come back and continue to talk about the menus. Alright, so we're pretty close to being level. I'm going to shut off the lights so we can see the screen a little better. Alright, so I'm actually filming this with a 4K camera. So obviously in person the quality is going to be better. Now on your remote, which now that it's dark, you can't see, but there's a S button on it for source. So if I click that, you'll see we're on it already on HDMI, but there's your other options: USB, HDMI 1, VGA. It says PC, but it's would be a VGA input, and then AV, which is your RCA. Red, yellow, and white cables there. Basically, yellow is video, red, white, audio, and those are you would use with your adapter that they've provided. Now, under the menu button, so we've already looked at X zoom, Y zoom as we set this up. Aspect ratio, hopefully you're familiar with that, but this is basically 16:9 is widescreen. 4:3 would be the old, basically your old TV sets the way they were. Auto, it adjusts automatically for you. Zoom 1, Zoom 1, it zooms in one time. Zoom 2, zooms in twice that, and then just scan. So let's go back to the menu. Alright. Picture mode. So you have different picture modes, which is because of the way I've got this set up, hard to see, but this is picture mode user, dynamic, standard, user, and back to user. Now under user, I can adjust contrast. So if I want to change this, which I think this is probably going the opposite direction we want to go to see. But you can briefly see that the picture is changing. And I actually think I like the contrast with a lower number, which I did not notice this before. So as I get this number smaller and smaller, the contrast looks sharper. As I go the other way, in my opinion, it does not quite look as good. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to a lower number. And this is, personal preference. Brightness, I've got this increased. Obviously it will go all the way to 100. And not necessary when you're completely dark to be that high. You'll notice it a lot more when you have a lot of backlight or there's sunlight outside. So as I lower this, obviously it's not as bright. And I think, honestly, I think a good number that I've been happy with has been 85. Color, we'll just go through this real fast. So you should see the color is changing ever so slightly. And if we go back the other way, so the main thing I'm noticing, the red is getting darker and darker. Doesn't look as vibrant than that direction, and doesn't look as natural. So right around 54, maybe even 65. I think that red looks pretty good there. Sharpness, this is one of those things where I might need my glasses to really notice, but sharpness is going to help the overall clarity of the picture. So we go high numbers, then we'll go back the other direction. And let me know if you guys can see any differences there. So to me it seems like the sharpness looks better with a higher number. Not like super high, but something greater than 50. And right about there is, I'm good with that. Alright, so talked about zoom, noise reduction default, projective mode. So this is interesting. If you need to change the way your projector is projecting, like that is upside down, that would be basically mirrored. That would be upside down and mirrored, and that would be back the same. Keystone correction. Now this is really great. That's what allows you, if your projector is not centered on the screen, this allows you to adjust it so that the outsides are vertical. So as I increase my number, you see that the top is getting narrower in comparison to the bottom. If I go the other way, you will see that the bottom will be narrow in relationship to the top. So ideally, if I had a line on the wall, I could knock that out perfectly, but it looks like +8 is probably right on the money. Alright, so now if we go the other way, here's a place to restore your factory defaults if you've screwed something up. If they come out with software updates, you can do that in here. High fan speed, you can turn that on to help with cooling. I think if you were using this outside or somewhere it's warmer, you might want to turn your fan on, but that does increase the sound. So that's really in here all that's really useful. Now under clock, you could set the time. You could tell this to turn off at a certain time, on time, sleep timer, and then auto sleep. And then sound mode. So the sound, you've got a movie mode. I use mine with a stereo, so I don't really mess with this too much, but you do have the volume controls, and you have, which are also on the remote, but surround sound off, on, and EQ, and then different sound sources. So that's pretty much the operation of the projector. If you want to see the unboxing, check the link below. Please like, please subscribe. Thank you.